welcome to the show. Each of your associations are on the journey to relevance and being truly member-centric. Nexstar has had a unique membership model ever since the association was founded, and National Speakers Association is in the process of completely revamping its membership model. So give our audience a little bit of insight into your association's journey. What is unique or different about your association, and why is change and relevance imperatives for your associations right now? Mary Lou, we'll start with you.
So what is really unique about the National Speakers Association is that we were founded with the spirit of abundance and generosity, and we call that the spirit of Scadden. So while our members technically compete with each other, they don't act like they compete with each other. They're so open with sharing and giving of information and help. So when I first started at NSA in 2018, I noticed at the time that we had a bit of an outdated, more traditional membership model that was based on your level of experience as opposed to how members want to engage today. And I think that's true for a lot of associations, and the associations that aren't adapting, they're not the ones that are thriving. So we started by doing research. We started with qualitative research, talking with members, talking to people that should be members, talking with my colleagues in the association world, and then looking at what other businesses are doing as well too. Because another unique factor about NSA is our biggest competitors are not other associations. They are individuals that do the same thing that we do, teaching professional speakers to be better speakers and build better businesses.
Okay. Julian, Nexstar Network. What is unique or different about your association right now? And why is change and relevance so important to Nexstar Network?
Well, we're in an interesting time. We do serve small business owners in plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical residential services. So we go into homes. And change is wildly imperative right now, as for the past year, people are either uncomfortable having strangers in their homes, employees are uncomfortable going to multiple homes in a day, and we're all learning technology. And then coupled on top of that, we've been working against a labor shortage. And when I say we, I'm speaking to our membership at large. There's the labor shortage. And now we're having materials shortages or price increases. So all of the supply chain issues are happening. So what do we do? What do we do as a member-owned organization? How do we rally our members around these topics? How do we advise? How do we learn? We're learning on the fly just as they do. So one of our core principles of our leadership team is to learn and grow at an accelerating rate. And that's always been one of our leadership code of conduct principles. But learning and growing at an accelerated rate has become more imperative in the past 18 months than it ever had been before. So it's our belief. We've always done it. But now if you don't do it, I just don't think you're going to make it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Mary Lou, NSA is launching an entirely new membership model right now, which inevitably requires buy-in from and support from the entire organization. It can be a heavy lift, and I'm curious to know, what have you learned throughout this process? What strategies are critical for associations to consider when undergoing such a large-scale change?
First is do your research. We did some qualitative research, we did quantitative, and then we did some additional qualitative research before we came up with our model. Then we involved our key constituencies. We went out to several different groups and got some of their feedback and incorporated the feedback where it made sense. And then we rolled it out. Now with us, one of the challenges was we had to roll it out pretty quickly. So we didn't communicate to the level I would have liked to have because we had to roll it out so quickly. Anytime you're doing a massive change, there will be people who just don't like the change. And as an association executive, you have to be okay with that. You have to listen to them. You have to make sure that, if there's new information, can you adjust? How do you communicate more effectively and roll with the punches? For the most part, we're really lucky I am. Our members are innovators. Our members are thought leaders. So a lot of them are accepting. They understand where we're going. We talk about the why. We talk about how NSA's had a bit of an outdated model, how it's not financially sustainable. We're not attracting the younger, diverse audience. And we're just too difficult to do business with. So we talked about how this new model affects change in those areas and gets us on the path to sustainability where we want to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you want to share just a little bit about how your model's changing?
Sure. So prior, we had 5 different membership categories. 2 of them required qualifications. So in order to join NSA for 2 of the 5 categories, you had to speak at least 20 times a year and make at least $25,000 in speaking fees. So that actually caused a lot of confusion. We turned a lot of people away because we had some people that weren't quite at that level and wanted to join NSA to help them get to that level. And when we turned them away, they actually felt a little bit bitter. We weren't there when they needed us. So why would they then join us once they're successful? So we came up with there's 3 steps to engage with NSA. We're just keeping it simple. There's learn. That's absolutely free because part of what we need to do as an association is help elevate the entire profession. So we've got learn. Then for those that are getting more serious about their business, but aren't quite ready to become a professional speaker, then we've got subscribe. That's an affordable model where you get access to a little bit more content. Then when you're ready, then you join. And in join, we have 3 different levels based on how you want to engage with us. So we've got our essential membership, which includes things like our magazine, access to our recordings, special pricing on NSA offerings, and some of our business partnerships like health insurance, which is really important for our audience of solo and entrepreneurs, and Zoom, Wordly, and a couple of other business products that help our members succeed. Then you go up to the next level and you get our digital vault and a couple of other things. Then there's a final level that's for the people that are, I am all in. I just want to pay 1 fee and I want to go to all of your events. I want to get subscribed to all of your content. Then we've got the all access.
Wonderful. So Julian, Nexstar Network has a very unique membership model. It has from the beginning, you already mentioned a keyword, member owned, which is unique in the association world. And curious to know, how are you doing that? How are you staying ahead of the curve, being relevant, in demand? How do you manage change? What strategies are critical for associations to consider in order to make change and innovation a core practice?
So much in that question. First, I want to say the more that I've learned about your work, Sarah, I'm extremely grateful. And the more that I listen to Mary Lou, it's like, oh, we all have so much stuff in common. It's just like, oh, I'm here with family. Like it's really nice to hear that. And I love the part about, as an executive, you're going to have to be okay being unpopular with some segment of your association or membership. And so I wanted to repeat that because I love it. And I just feel right at home with you. So I have to share that. We are member owned from our founder, and the way that our bylaws were drafted up is that we are 100% member owned. Every member in our organization holds 1 equal share. And what's interesting, though, is it holds no cash value. We are meant to return every dollar of profit in the form of goods or services to our membership. So with that in mind, that really helped create some of the core of our innovative and creative DNA. There's no distribution at the end of the year, not to the members, nor to myself or the staff. So every dollar we have that we make, we think about, we have one of our first guiding principle for the staff is M1, meaning members first. And everything we do, we use the Strategizer platform, if you're familiar, and if not, just look that up. But it's a terminology, it's a way of evaluating what you should be executing for your customer. If you want to say it that way, we do it for our members. And so we have tons of creative ideas. Many of our employees are former business owners as we're in training and consulting. So these are very successful people and they don't have a shortage of ideas. Trust me there. Just as your membership doesn't have a shortage of opinions. So what we found is it's not necessarily the challenge of finding the creativity or the innovation. It's distilling what should we execute? What's the right thing for the membership at large, not just the most vocal of our members or the largest revenue of our members, or, just the ones who won't leave you alone, or maybe my own pet project. How do I bounce my ideas off by having an authoritative title? How do I ensure that I'm thinking of the membership at large? So it's the tenet of being member owned, the host of ideas, but then really using a model. As I mentioned, the strategizer model is what we use to ensure that what we're doing is going to benefit the membership at large and doing the right thing. So if you have a shortage of ideas, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I can't help you. But what I can say, and my strongest belief in any business, is the culture. And I know that term is broad, and what does that mean? But you have to have a personality. You have to have that being able to be defined. And with that, we have 6 guiding principles. And we do use Patrick Lencioni's model as well of humble, hungry, smart when we're evaluating a recruit, because we don't interview people, we recruit people. An interview is one step of that. And I think as you can understand what the makeup is, and I've heard the term like avatar of your core employee, what their behaviors, characteristics, attributes are, then the creativity is just, it compounds, and then it's a bit much. Then I need a little time out from some of these creative, thoughtful people.
So both of you are representing industries that during pandemic were challenged. Speaking was challenged, as well as plumbing, heating contractors were challenged, small businesses, solo entrepreneurs. So you're going through change, both professionally as well as within your association. You're creating new programs, deliverables, member benefits. How do you keep members informed and inspired during a time such as this? And Julian, this time we'll start with you.
Thank you. Well, what we found is we just upped our communication, and it sounds basic, but really we did. Our coaches would commonly have regular reoccurring coaching calls with our membership, but not all of them were using Zoom. Not all of them were using video. Even with our staff, ensuring that we have a weekly one-to-one. Every employee in our business has a weekly one-to-one, and we, ensure that that's all being done by video. But to impact our membership is we did have to up our communication. We had our coaches reaching out more. We had our trainers creating more online training, because we are known for in-person events. Matter of fact, that's why I'm here in a hotel room. We're back to in-person. But we had to up our online game, and we just doubled down on reaching out, checking in. Now we were good about this in the past. Say a tornado hits a certain region, we would all reach out and we'd love on them. But this was nationwide. This was global. So we couldn't focus our attention when we're region, and we had to figure out time zone messaging, time zone release of messaging, more so than we ever had before, to see the effectiveness and the impact of separating our messaging to ensure it was getting to our members. Picking up the doggone phone, that's a lost art. Just pick up the phone, get on there with somebody, check in on them, see how they're doing. So it was just hyper aggressive communication is what really helped us. And we had our highest retention. We have a 95% retention, which I'm very proud of. We had a record year of 98, and we grew more than we ever did. And I really think that we created some behaviors and values through this hyper communication that will serve us well going forward, that we can't lose.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And for our viewers who are watching, so one of your member benefits is coaching. So it's a tremendous benefit. Okay, National Speakers Association, same with you. How are you keeping members informed and inspired during a time of transition?
Sure. So you nailed it. With our members, they are professional speakers. So they communicate expertise using the spoken word. So whether that's keynoting, breakout speaking, consulting, coaching, and a lot of that used to happen in person prior to COVID. So for our members, they worked really hard. They secured a year's worth of bookings, and then within 1 week, it all went away, and they had no idea if it was coming back, when it was coming back, what it would look like. So it was a really scary time. So we immediately started interviewing some industry experts, just like, what do you see happening? What do you think is going to happen? We know you don't have the right, the 100% accurate answer, but what are your thoughts, just to start getting an idea of trends? And we released those video interviews. We started holding weekly video sessions where our members could all join in. We had a couple of people that were doing really successful, and they were talking about what they were doing. We have a really small staff, but we put everything except our annual conference and our member value calls on hold. And we started member value calls, where we personally reached out to all of our members to try and schedule video calls check in, see how they're doing, go through all of their benefits with them, because a lot of our members didn't know all of the tools they had access to. And so we've kept that in place. We now just have a more we reach out to our members and ask them to go ahead and just schedule it, and they randomly get one of our staff members. That was also really good for our staff because it gives us insight into our members, what they're going through, allows us to connect with them emotionally. And we started to see trends. So as I was making those calls, I started seeing around July, there was a little more uptick in consulting. By August, consulting seemed to be picking up a lot, and keynoting was just starting, mainly virtual. We also work to give our members the tools to switch to a virtual format. We didn't go into what you should have been doing, especially when it came to finances. I heard a lot of that from others where it was like, well, you should have had a year plan. You should have had, well, that doesn't do any good. So let's say, let's take our worst case scenario and assume somebody has no savings and they have no revenue coming in. What are their options? And we got the experts on to talk about, here's what you can do. We talked about the SBA loans and their programs. We just made sure to give them information that would really help them build a better business and be a better speaker, transforming from the in-person to the virtual.
Mary Lou, that is a great segue as you were doing the calls, and I was a recipient of one of those calls, and I absolutely love that check-in, and I love that you were learning about trends from your members. So my next question is, what trends are each of your associations anticipating and predicting now going forward in this post-pandemic world? Are you picking up on other thoughts, ideas, and plans, Mary Lou?
So virtual is here to stay. I think it'll be more hybrid because people do miss that in-person connecting. COVID provided us, as hard as it was, provided opportunities, one of which is the opportunity to reinvent the conference. No adult wants to be lectured to for 8 hours a day. So how do we do conferences different? So I see conferences changing. Technology is going to be changing. Again, continuing to become easier to use and more everyday use of technology and video calls. I see some people going back to phone calls just because people are sick of being on Zoom all day and you kind of feel like you're on. And for conferences, I think conferences are going to rebound, but I think they're going to spike and then they're going to level out because people have been isolated for over a year now. And as human beings, that's not good for us.
Right. Julian, any changes or opportunities you're seeing on the horizon?
I'm really aligned with Mary Lou in that our events, we had the opportunity to host an event in October and it was hybrid. We had 400 people in person in Arizona and we had 1,500 people join us virtually. That had never happened before. And to your point, it's here to stay. So we've looked at expanding our online virtual options, some self-led, some facilitator-led, some webinars, some town halls. And we had that at our fingertips this whole time and never used it. So thank goodness that we've learned to leverage that. And it is a new world of both virtual and in person, and we'll continue to leverage that.
As we close out our time together, I'd like each of you to just give one piece of advice to the associations tuning in from around the world. Those that want to create an organizational culture that's open to change and member-centric. What's one recommendation you would leave with them? Julian?
Number one, lead by example. And that is that when we're orientating people and the behavior that I'll model with our M1, it's 4:59, you get off at 5, you get a call from a strategic partner or a vendor, you get a call from me, the CEO, you get a call from a member. You can only return one call. Who do you call? You call the member. And I hold people's feet to the fire on that. So you've got to model it as a leader. And then the next thing, as far as the culture, is you have to define it. You have to have your guiding principles. We have our 6. If you can't label the behavior, not a word, and I'm not going to get deep into this, but just a word, trust, that doesn't do anything. One of our guiding principles is to see it, say it, and directly and with respect. Now that's an action and that's a behavior. And we talk about it every week. You got to define it, you've got to coach to it, and you've got to live it.
Love that. Mary Lou, one thing to create a culture that's member-centric and open to change.
I would say the same thing that Julian said is obviously leading by example, but your guiding values. So we call the guiding principles our guiding values. And we talk about them every week in our weekly touch bases. But we also aligned our performance review to reflect those. So we're not just doing random questions. They all align to our guiding values and how you've lived them. And then we have quarterly check-ins. So that way it's always top of mind. And we also talk about where we slipped up.
Yeah, that's good. Got to learn from success as well as failures and challenges. Yeah, fantastic advice. So I like to end these interviews with a celebratory dance. So if you'll join me in some dance moves and celebrating all that you're doing to help save the associations. Congratulations on all your success.